Okay. You should be rejoicing because this week is the Open Access Week, so you'll have a lot of things that is going on internet, starting from chats, from things, questions that are asked, institutions that will put all sorts of materials there. Just look for the Open Access Week and you'll be astonished of how much it will be there for you. Okay. Oh, yeah. It should have been a very nice font that won't screw up my presentation, but it goes very well. Remember from this open definition, because I started with the open definition because we always have something related to semantics when we try to establish what open is. And there is, for this purpose, this definition of open. You should take out of it one thing very important: use and modify. That's, remember for this. For now, there's two things. Open access. Open access is a global movement that started out of the need to compensate for the rising prices for the scientific journals. So it's done by the librarians right now. In this bandwagon, it's a lot of those who are editing the scientific journals, including the commercial ones. Well, it's pretty nicely screwed, but it's okay. Open science, it's the new thing that is coming out of the open access. Open science is a new concept. It should have been called open access 2.0, but right now open science encompasses what is to become of the workflows of how science should be done. It's not only the finished product, the paper, the monograph, the presentation at the conference. It's about the whole workflow that will be spitted out and it will be used in the terms of data, the value out of it. Okay, yeah, absolutely, this is it. Good. It's a new modus operandi. It's not a product anymore. We are not talking about products anymore. It's the way it's happening. And that way of it's right now happening should be captured somehow and used later on. These two guys, I guess you know them. Everything is linked pretty nicely with software, workflows, and works. This is it. This is a very good mantra when it comes to opening the stuff you do as a researcher. Now I'll put the hat of representative for this project, because openarea.eu, and this project has a very nice repository that uses not only the works, doesn't accumulate works anymore. It goes also for the data sets, because this is really on the money in the future of your researchers. Maybe at one future point in time you will be asked on how to make relevant a data set that you produced in relation to another set that has been produced by one of your fellow colleagues. So remember this. Zenodo is part of OpenArea, and it captures also the data that could be shared and could be accessed then as an API. But the thing is, in the future, when you will be asked how to make relevant your datasets in comparison to other datasets, you will have to triplify it. You will have to make it semantically available for humans and machine in the same time. For that purposes, there is something that is called resource description framework. Please take a look into it. Nothing, but nothing out of this would be possible without using open licensing for software and for the works. The problem is sometimes you have to find a middle way to harmonize how open is one in comparison to the other. But by the time you will understand that one doesn't work without the other, there should be no quarrels between those licensing systems. People still perceive differently. Okay, a new thing that you have to become aware and to use it day by day is called GitHub. It allows you something beautiful that is called versioning. Start looking into that, because it will be the next big thing. Zenodo uses, that is part of OpenAir, Zenodo uses identifiers to track data as it's pushed not to Zenodo, but to GitHub. So everything starts to become interconnected, but we haven't got to the level of talking data to other data. Okay, there are guidelines to open access to scientific publication and research data on Horizon 2020. Horizon 2020, for those of you who don't know, it's a framework, a big pot of money dedicated to the research. And right now, within this framework, when it comes to the data, data are not mandatory. Data is a piloted thing. It will be gathered if you are willing to contribute to it. This is a schema that will tell you how to do it if you want to do it in the framework of open access 2 ways, the gold and the green. Japanese guys are picking up on this and they are developing their own national framework for this. And looking at this stuff, you would probably be asking yourself, what is the real dimension of everything that goes on enveloped in this open thing and then in the mantle of open access? And the dimension is global. There is nothing that it cannot be encompassed within the research framework to the term of open access. Okay, one thing that I'm really, really fond of it, what it leads to. It leads to these kind of things. Open source malaria, for example, it's a project that literally takes open science as a framework and makes a snapshot of the things that it does. Those who are working this are using a system that is called open notes. So as they work, you could see everything they do and you could capture that moment. It's very important because these things will go and it will accelerate the growth of science and the growth of the results that science proposes for its audience. Oh. And yes, these open notes started to become a big thing that led to real competitions. So right now it's an open netbook science challenge. Please take a look into it because you will see different ways of capturing the workflow of how science is done. Dziękuję, and thank you very much for your time and for your attention. I'll be for a grab outside if you have many questions. There are a few depths that I couldn't tackle. Thank you.
Thank you for interaction. Good morning, good evening. Hello everybody, it's great to be here. I did not understand exactly what you said about me because it was in Polish. So just what I want to remark is that I am not a lawyer, but a teacher. So this will be a little different point of view, but the things will be similar or very similar. Okay. I'm going to talk about the Alliance for Open Education, which is organization which sent me here. So I will talk about them, introduce it, and then talk about the Czech strategy for open education, which is mainly based or focused on open education. I will talk about priorities, priority objectives, its vision, and how it supports open educational resources. So, firstly, about the alliance. This alliance we have founded last year, but after a year of preparation. So now we can say that it's the third year of working, and we have now about 80 members. Organizations, small organizations, big organizations, and also individuals. So, for example, you can see some logos of these institutions. We have, as a member, Czech television, or you probably know Khan Academy. So we have a Czech version of Khan Academy. This is non-governmental organization. They translate videos from America, and they are equipped them by Czech subtitles, which means that these materials are very suitable in schools for using in education. For example, one of our members is Wikimedia, and you know their product Wikipedia, teachers associations, etc. If I have to talk about what the Open Alliance for Open Education is doing, so I have to mention that it's a non-governmental organization. It means that it's based on volunteers. Alliance is trying to promote open education to public, to teachers, educators, parents, children. So we are releasing press releases, we are printing and publicating publications, organizing workshops, seminars for teachers, and small conference, something like this, but on education mostly. And the Alliance is also commenting the governmental plans and documents which are focused on open governance or open education. And one of these document or strategy is the strategy for digital education until 2020. If I can show you some examples of what this Alliance did, we can show these brochures or booklets. The first one on the left is called, or if I translate it into English, how to create educational materials accessible to all, because it seems that, or it can be said that it is easy, but it is not. If you want to publish something what is readable for and accessible for all people, also for people with some disability, or it means also for robots, for programs which need to read text for indexing and for some other purposes, for artificial intelligence, it must to fulfill some rules, to follow some rules. And for example, some headlights must be marked as headlines, and these rules are not very known in people who are working on this material. So this is the first one example of publication. And the second one on the right side, how to improve the quality of schools through open education. In this brochure we tried to define or define what open education is, and as you can see here, it consists of three big areas: open education resources, and these resources could be small assets, I don't know, picture, image, and also bigger parts as presentations, and also e-learning, or for example MOOCs, massive open online courses. So this is the first part. Second one is open data, and the third is open access, and these topics were already mentioned in this conference. So now I'm moving to Czech strategy for digital education, and these three topics are priority objectives. And as you can see, the main, or the first one is opening up education, which means that we want to open education to new methods, to teaching method and practice, techniques through using digital technologies. It means not only to use modern ways of pedagogy, of education, but to use digital technologies to spread these new methods and modern education to many people. The second one is the competence, abilities of students, and of course with working with information, critical thinking, processing with computers, and working with digital technologies. And if we want to improve students' abilities, students' competencies, we firstly have to focus on teachers and educators. So it's connected together. And the third is topics or priority objective is developing computational thinking among students, which is something special. It is not about coding or programming, but it is also about that. But we are trying to make young population to be cooperators of their digital equipment and environment, what is around them, what is surrounding them. So we want not to be just consumers, but co-creators of this surroundings. So there are many ways which can develop these competencies. I mean, for example, some some new programs for teaching computing, teaching programming, analytical thinking, critical thinking, to be able to find information and to recognize what is the reality and what is the interpretation of the reality, which is very important. So these were three priorities of our strategy. And what is the vision of the strategy? It's written over there. It's based on. It's very general. The vision is very general. It's based on lifelong learning. It's clear, I think, and it aims to create open environment which enable every man or every woman to continue learning through his or her life equally and with no restrictions. It is provided, the vision is, or the education, open education is provided not only by public but also private and non-profit sectors, which is very important because we have to cooperate, for example, with IT companies, IT firms. It can't be only on the public sector, but of course the state has a great task in this process. Open education provides access to shared educational resources and infrastructure. It means that we need broadband, internet broadband to everybody, to all schools, and real broadband, not just internet. And education system is permeate at all levels, which means that it's very hard to develop this because it means that, for example, it's not necessary to stay in desk in school, but you can directly go to the final exam. You don't have to stay in school. And the last one, everyone, regardless of his or her social economic background, can enter it at any time throughout the life, which means that it doesn't depend on his money or social economic situation. I can show you that the three priorities of the strategy are in the center, and I will not talk about all the 7 interventions which are described over there. I mentioned just several of them. Very important is equal access to digital resources and education, which I will talk later. And it, for example, means that all materials which will be produced with support of EU funds have to be accessed, have to be open for all people, and have to be searchable, which means that we are preparing some special repository with metadata where all these documents and outputs will be indexed. And a very important part of the strategy is this one, public understanding of the goals and processes of integration of digital technology into education, because people usually do not understand why they should learn to use technology. Because in the past it was not so important, but I think everybody knows that the importance is growing of this sector. So what we did, and now I mean at the ministry, because I work as a consultant for ministry for this strategy, is that we prepare this document, which is called Quality Criteria on Digital Education Resources, which are funded from public budgets, and I mean especially European Union funds. And this document defines what these materials should consist of, or what they should fulfill. We tried to use Creative Commons, but it was not so easy to enforce this. So I can show more concretely these three requirements which enforce open educational resources. So every material which will be produced and will be funded by EU funds should be firstly must be under the copyright requirements, which means that pupils, teachers, and other educators can use that material, can remix it, change it, transform, copy, and redistribute the materials. Of course, if you read it, you probably are thinking about Creative Commons, but there can be more licensings. Technical requirements mean that these digital resources are available on internet. Users know about their existence, are able to find them and can use them. There are no obstacles, for example, to enter some password or to enter some personal data, personal information. And the third one is a requirement for correctness, maybe for pedagogy and didactics, which means that they must be in accordance with, for example, Constitution of the Czech Republic. It is very similar to textbooks, which have to be also right in this part of requirements. So it is all about digital strategy, and if you have any comments, you can ask my colleagues here from the Alliance for Open Education or me. Thank you for attention.